this is where all the influences come from. And the influence of sport has gone to street. So we're all fashion companies now. Everybody's a fashion company because that's where the business is. The volumes are on the street. And even the haute couture, those companies are now being influenced by sport. You look at the shoes now, that wherever you go, the influence is there if they're not actually sports shoes. So they're driven by fashion, Nike, Adidas, and not even, well, Reebok to an extent, are driven by performance.
Bienvenidos a Milenio Negocios, este programa que hacemos Ilana Sod y yo. Hoy con un invitado muy especial nos acompaña Joe Foster. Él es fundador de Reebok y autor del libro recién lanzado en español, Crea Sneakers, cómo crear una marca global, o en inglés Shoemaker, The Untold Story of the British Family Firm That Became a Global Brand. Thank you so much for being with us. And Before the book at Reebok, your most recent role, from what I read, I might be wrong, was president of the international division. Now, in that sense, I wanted you to tell us a little bit how important a market it is or was, Mexico in particular, and or Latin America in general for Reebok as a global brand.
Oh, well, yes. I did an arrangement with Paul Feynman in America, because I wanted to get a British brand into America, into the States. That's the big market. That would make us big, and it did. It really made us big. But when I made this arrangement with Paul, he also wanted to have Canada and Mexico because they were the adjoining markets. So he was a controller. He didn't want transshipping. He wanted to be able to sell into Mexico. So for me, Latin America started with Panama and thereon. And globally, I was looking globally at what we could do with Reebok. Once we got America, once the brand really took off there, my job was easy. It was easy because everybody wanted a piece of Reebok. In particular, like yourself, women. We became a women's company with aerobics. A lot of influence came directly from Paul Feynman and the States.
Joe, what are the three main lessons you learned from Reebok that you could share with businesses that are starting?
Oh, the three main lessons. I think it's one of the most important things is getting the right people. And, I think in business, one of the most important things for me was having fun, enjoying it. But then you've got to learn very quickly how to handle problems and turn them into advantages. So, expect the worst, but be prepared and, enjoy it.
What do you have to know of your client and the context once you start turning into a brand that is global? Because I'm assuming that no customer is the same, or are we all the same?
Oh, no, nobody's the same. But when you deliver a brand, it's the what people have is the imagination for that brand, that enthusiasm. And if you spread the enthusiasm, it's so attractive. People want it, and you've got to create that with a brand. You've got to create that desire. This is what grew the company. Our friend in Los Angeles, Angel Martinez, it was his wife going to aerobic classes, and Arnold says, "What are you doing?" "Oh, we're exercising to music, and we love it." Right. When Arnold went down there, he saw an instructor in sneakers, half of the class in sneakers, the other half not wearing any shoes at all. And that's when he thought, why don't we make this specifically for women? So the marketing, that marketing thrust, the way he did it, right, we'll just make it on a woman's last, which just fits a woman's sizes, and not for men. So, yes, you've got to create the hunger for the brand.
I'm going to change the subject. I'm going to talk about global crisis. How can businesses today create a global brand in a world in constant crisis, be that the pandemic or the Ukrainian conflict or you name it?
Well, of course, it's tough. And, what we've been having with COVID, and now we have other war zones and problems going on. But we all know about these things now because we do have social media. We do have computers. When I started, we didn't have that. We didn't have smartphones. I had to jump on an airplane and go to the different places where I meet people at, say, the NSGA in America. I had to do that. Now you get there differently. But again, it's influences. It's creating something a little bit different if you can, but you get the influences. And still, for me, the USA market is the one that influences the rest of the world. I think you find a lot of the big brands now really are USA based. But now we have media and social media. It's so easy now. We're talking, I don't know how far apart we are, but I'm usually talking to somebody in America from England, then I'll be talking to somebody in Australia. And it's brilliant. We can do this. I wish I could have done this probably, 50 years ago. But no, so it's new. But, it's an exciting time, I think. Opportunities are incredible.
Reebok was sold to Adidas in 2005 for $3,800 million. That could be every family business's dream. What lessons from this process could you share with other family-owned businesses when they start thinking about doing a merger and acquisition?
Well, I had retired from the business before that sale went on. And I think, when you spend a certain amount of time in a business and then you have to bring somebody else in. You have to give over the reins to make sure that it's with the times and everything, because you can't do it all yourself. And if you try and control it, eventually you will run out of ideas. So you need people. And that's what I was saying right at the beginning. You need people. And for me, it was Paul Feynman. He was brilliant. Took America. Great. Fantastic. But when it came to Paul handing over, which if he'd have handed over to somebody else, Reebok, I think, would have continued to grow. But he couldn't find anybody, or he couldn't let go. I don't know which it is, but it eventually ended up selling to Adidas. In a way, the story was that Adidas with Reebok together, they would be a big sort of contender for the Nike business. They were going to kill Nike. But, Adidas, of course, wanted to get more into the American market. So Reebok took sort of second place. And so Reebok was in the shadow. But now that ABG, they bought the brand and we're coming out from the shadow. And that's going to be, I think you're going to see a lot more of Reebok. You are indeed.
You've seen how the sneaker market has changed through the years. It moved from the sports field into the city and then into the high market. It's now a multi-million-dollar business. How was that transition?
Well, I think that tradition came because people were so enthusiastic about watching sport. And, once sport, this is where all the influences come from. And the influence of sport has gone to street. So we're all fashion companies now. Everybody's a fashion company because that's where the business is. The volumes are on the street. And even the haute couture, those companies are now being influenced by sport. You look at the shoes now, that wherever you go, the influence is there if they're not actually sport shoes. So they're driven by fashion, Nike, Adidas, and not even, Reebok to an extent, are driven by performance.
We're going to the end of the program, but I believe that mistakes in businesses are one of the things that allow leaders to really grow sometimes. Is there one mistake that you personally made through your history with Reebok that today is worth mentioning because maybe others could learn from it?
I made a lot of mistakes. I probably made more mistakes than good decisions. But, that's how you learn. You learn by making mistakes. If you're an entrepreneur, you're out there, you're pioneering. If you want to follow somebody, you'll always be behind. But if you want to be a pioneer, you step out, you take the risk.
Joe, I have a question about the future of sneakers or the sneaker world. Where is the sneaker business heading? What's the collection market value these days? And mostly, are the younger generations interested in spending thousands of dollars in shoes?
Well, I find that more than ever, they're spending their money on shoes. They're collector's items now. Mm-hmm. Where is it going? Well, if somebody asked me, I would say, let's go and ask a few teenagers. They know where it's going. I'm out of that game. I'm too old to know where it's going. I know where it's been, and I know where to go to find those answers. But you employ youngsters. You're in the metaverse now. You're gaming. These are the people who will create the future, not me. So where it's going, goodness knows. But I'd say I would talk to a good few youngsters out there, and they will tell me.
You just mentioned that Reebok was going to be again in more of a top of mind brand now that it has changed again to another company of brands in fashion. Where do you see Reebok now? Where is that space that it needs to shine again?
Well, I think the association with Adidas tried to put Reebok as a fitness company, while Adidas stayed a performance company. So they tried to create something that Reebok wasn't. And they changed one or two things. Eventually, towards the end, they brought Reebok back. They brought its logo back. They brought the styling of the wording back, and it started to grow again. But what they didn't do was they didn't give it visibility. Now, the one thing that authentic brands do, and they're really, really good at it, is getting into retail, because they have some really good associations globally with different retail. So what you will find, and I think this is by far the first thing that they should do, and they are doing, making the brand visible again. They're going to make it visible globally. And I think they're going to work out the strategy as they go to, well, how do we have to make it visible? I think at the end of 2022, there'll probably be a 3 billion as against a 1.5 billion company. And even they in 23 have a vision for a $5 billion company, raising to 10 billion by 2030. So, and that's through visibility. So yes, they're going to make it more visible.
Joe, thank you so much for this interview. We appreciate your time. And thank you. Gracias también a nuestra audiencia por habernos acompañado. Thank you, Joe.